Hello friends, welcome back. My name's Ramon. How are you today? For the first time in a very long time, we have a brand new Fenty Beauty launch. She just launched today, December 26th, with her new Pro Filt'r powder foundations. Now, I love Fenty Beauty, that's no secret. For a long time on the channel, I did Fenty Fridays. For me, I really look forward to new Fenty Beauty launches just because for me, there's always a sense of innovation that comes with each new launch that's just kind of a little bit different within the makeup world. And prior to this, the last, I think, major launch they had within the brand was their cream blushes back in like May. So really hyped to see this, especially just because Pro Filt'r line, something I love. I exclusively pretty much only use Fenty Beauty products in my tutorials, skincare or otherwise. So I was excited to see this. Before we get into today's application, first impression, and full day wear test review, I'm gonna ask you to hit the subscribe button and notification bell so that you know when I post more skincare, sunscreen, Fenty related content on my channel. Give this video a thumbs up, and down below, did you get it? Are you gonna get it? Do you love powder foundations? Because I definitely do. There's just something really special, something very unique about how a powder foundation looks on the skin, how it applies to the skin, how versatile it can be in a routine. Sound off. So today is launch day, the 26th of December. We pretty much set out to buy these upon opening on launch day, the same way that I did when Fenty Beauty first launched back in 2017. We were like, we're gonna go to the stores, buy the colors we need, we're gonna be good. Mind you, I live in the UK now, I'm not in the US. So here in the UK, they only have Fenty Beauty at select retailers. They either have them at Harrods, I believe, or Boots UK. But with Boots, which that's basically our Walgreens, they don't carry Fenty Beauty at everyone. So we had to find the specific ones that had it, that were open, and that had it in stock. And so we pretty much spent like the first few hours of today from like 9 till 11 traversing all of London, trying to get all the shades that we needed, because for me, I needed a specific shade that would match me, and then I wanted to try a couple others. So shout out to the employee at the Boots in St. Pancras Station, because she's the one who came through with the final shade that we needed. I mean, we made a whole day of it. We went and we saw Buckingham Palace today. We spent like a million hours on the tube. It was fun. But to show you what about today, I got 3 specific shades. 290, which is what predominantly matches me, specifically undertone wise. There's nothing in the line that really matches this undertone in a lighter shade. And I'm not necessarily to the depth that I would be to warrant this, except for in the perimeters of my face. So while I got 290, I also decided to get a couple other shades, specifically 260 and 240. Normally throughout the year, I tend to mix something more neutral with 290. So 260 is a pretty good mix, and I wanted to see how they look like just because I am more neutral in the center of my face. And then 240 looked like a really good undertone match on the arm swatches they have on the Fenty Beauty sites. For reference, 290, the concealer matches my skin pretty well throughout the rest of the year when I'm not at my deepest shade, and so 240 powder foundation matched this one the closest. That was why I got all those different shades. But I also decided to get the Diamond Bomb in the shade Rosé Rave just because it's launched. I hadn't been able to get my hands on it. And then Fenty also launched brand new cream glosses. Ideally, it's gonna be the same texture and feel of the Fenty Gloss Bomb, so these have a little bit more opacity in the shades of them. This one specifically is in the shade Fenty Glow. Primarily, we're focusing on the foundations. We'll be playing around with some other stuff. Skin prep for today. After we went out and did all the shopping, I came back, washed my face with the Fenty Total Cleanser. I then went and prepped my skin with the Fenty Skin Fat Water, as well as the Fenty Beauty HYDRA Visor. Make sure you're wearing your sunscreen. With that, I have a nice moisturized hydrated base, which is very vital for foundation wear, but specifically looking at the product claims, they actually recommend you want to go in with the powder foundation on a really nice moisturized base. Looking at other product claims on the Fenty Beauty site, specifically, they wanted to create a powder version of the Pro Filt'r foundations, which are amazing. Long wear, light as air, crease resistant. They also talk about the Blur Filter Complex that delivers an ultimate blurred finish. It's buildable, and that's what I love about powder foundations. You really have a lot of flexibility in how sheer or how full coverage you can be, just because these compare really nicely with the Fenty Pro Filt'r liquid complexion products. And then the tea with this is that you have the option of using the little sponge that comes in the applicator, but then you also have a lot of other Fenty Beauty tools you can use. I'm personally a big fan of the Fenty Beauty Precision Blending Sponges, the original foundation brush, but I decided to buy the Kabuki blending brush for this, and it's actually recommended by the brand for this foundation, just because the denser the brush, the fuller and more dense the coverage you're going to be getting with the product. So I'll be playing around with the application techniques as well. So here we are zoomed in so you can get a little bit of a closer look. I'm going to go through and swatch the colors here in my hand so you can see what they look like, slash what will be probably the best fit for my skin. You see the component of it right here. Open it up. You got the mirror, you got the powder foundation, and then underneath you have the little application sponge they recommend that you use. Oh, you got 2 mirrors in there. That's interesting. The original like standard mirror that comes with the foundation part, and then you lift it up. And technically this is like the bottom of the metal component that holds the powder foundation, but it's kind of like a magnifying mirror, so that's interesting. This is the shade 290. This is the shade I tend to prefer for most of my face just because it has more of an olive undertone to it. Oh, that's light. It's 290, right? Yeah. I find the 290 foundations a lot darker than this, so this is a little bit more fair than I would think. But I think that's actually a little bit better because it means it's going to match me a little bit more throughout the year. Next, we'll go down one shade. This is going to be 260. This is a neutral undertone. When Fenty first launched, this is what I actually would wear most just because the center of my face is a little bit more neutral. You can see there the shade difference, 290, 260. It's gonna be 240. 240, I believe, has more of a warm undertone right here. So 290, 260, 240. Definitely still prefer this one for my face. I might use 240 in the center though. I like that undertone. So I'm gonna go in and prime half my face with the Pro Filt'r Soft Matte Primer. I'm gonna go in and spot conceal just because I got a little bit of a situation going on right now. And then I'm going to go in with the Matchstick in the shade Honey to color correct my under eyes. While you don't necessarily need to prime, just because I find that the Fenty skin products actually prep the skin really well for makeup, if you do need a little bit of an extra something, whether it's long wear, longevity, extra blurring of the skin, or more oil control, the primers are a good addition. That's why I'm doing it primer, no primer, to see if the primer really does affect the overall long wear and quality of the wear of the foundation throughout the day. So as I mentioned, primarily I'm going to be focusing on the 290 as well as the 240 of the powder foundation. I'm going to be starting off with the 290 in the powder foundation in the perimeter of my forehead using the little applicator that comes with it. And I'm not a big fan of these applicators necessarily, but I do understand the benefit and the convenience of having these for on-the-go touch-ups. I just am not necessarily a big fan of application with these, but we're going to be open-minded about it. Going in 290. Okay, right off the bat. Blurred. You see that? Okay, so right off the bat, definitely mattifies, but it's a powder, but it also leaves like a very pro filter, as Fenty does. Blurred finish with it. I love the way that looks. I used to love powder foundations. My first like major foundation I used was the MAC Studio Fix powder foundations. And I used those for a long time, and those really taught me the versatility of being able to use powder foundations. Okay, so right off the bat, you can see it looks really, really good. I cut it in the perimeter just because, as someone of color, this outer part and upper part of my face is a lot darker than the center of my face, and that's where the 290 matches best. You can see here it looks good, but I don't got a lot to conceal here. Where you can really see the coverage of it is right here in the outer part of my cheek, where I do have a few other breakouts. I concealed this, and with the little sponge applicator, I press as opposed to swiping. And I still feel like you're not getting a lot of coverage there. So I'm gonna be taking the brush to do this half of my face and come back on this side in a second. The 115 Kabuki brush, which I bought today for the first time. They launched this specifically with the hydrating liquid foundation, and with this they're also recommending it's a great option because the denseness of the Kabuki brush itself is gonna help you give you a more dense full coverage application of the powder. So let's take the same 290 foundation in this half of my face that I primed with. One thing I also want to point out is, I don't know if you can see it in the powder foundation right there. Only thing I really don't like about powder foundations is that if whatever you're using to apply it soaks up any emolliency or moisture from your face and you go back into the same powder, oftentimes you'll get this reaction with the powder where it kind of oxidizes and hardens. The one qualm I have about powder foundations, and because I used the Fenty Skin HYDRA VIZOR to prep my skin, that kind of got back into the powder itself. But taking clean brush, going in, I'm just going to pick up some product and okay, and here we have the same area of application as it on this side, but with the Kabuki brush instead. And as my boyfriend pointed out, it's actually still very sheer. So I actually don't know what the best, most full coverage application technique is going to be with this. This is also the prime side, and I find the primer generally adheres to foundation a lot better too. I want to point out I did spot conceal, and I feel like that didn't stick. Well, let me try one more thing. I'm going to be taking the actual precision blending sponge and going over the same areas with 290 just to see. So I got the product right there. Perimeter's done. I essentially just bronze with this for the most part, but going into the center of my face where I'm a little bit lighter, I'm going to be taking the 240 as I mentioned. You can see I got a little bit of redness going on here. I want to see how well this covers it. I don't have a lot of blemishes necessarily, but I just want to see how much coverage I can get in the center of my face. I'm going to be focusing with the sponge applicator first. Okay, so what I will say and why I love the Pro Filt'r product so much is that it blurs pores. What pores? They're gone. Texture gone. And I feel like it mattifies, but it doesn't leave you really, really flat. I still feel like I have a little bit of radiance and dimension to my face still, so that's really good. Now let's go in the other side with the Kabuki brush. So yeah, there's that full face of the 240 and the 290, the powder foundation. Quite frankly, I think I actually prefer the sponge applicator to apply it with. I feel like you get a good amount of product with this and you have a lot more control of the coverage you can get with it. I just want to know, with washing this to maintain the cleanliness of it, how well it's going to hold up, how long it's going to hold up, and then whether or not Fenty's going to actually sell these individually. I don't know. But it looks good so far. Let me finish my face. I'm gonna be going in with the powder bronzer in the shade Private Islands, and the pepper in my face a little bit more, and then in my eyelids. And then I'm going in with the Rosé Rave new highlighter just to see what that looks like on the eyes and the cheeks. Do my brows, and then I'll look back. So I went in and took a little bit of coverage in certain areas using an eyeshadow brush with the powder foundation. But what I will say is also when I went in back in my under eyes with more matchsticks, liquid and cream products reapply over the powder really, really well. So that's a nice plus. And then I went in with the Private Island bronzer, as I mentioned, to bronze out the perimeter and in my crease. And now I'm going to go in with the new Rosé Rave Diamond Bomb. And here we have it. This is actually a lot lighter than I thought it was going to be, not going to lie. So it's a lot icier than I thought it was going to be in terms of how pink it is. It seems a little bit lighter than the Water Brat Kilowatt. Let's see what it looks like. I'm actually going to be taking a little bit of a denser brush. This is a Sephora foundation brush. And just taking that and applying that on the high points of the cheek. There, it actually looks really nice so far without looking at it too up close. You don't necessarily get a lot of opacity in terms of the pinkness, but you do get a little bit of a frosty pink shimmer as a little bit more of a pronounced highlight. But I like the fact that it doesn't come off as a very, very stark, opaque blush highlight combo situation. You have a lot of control of how pink or how powerful you want that punch to be. Let me go and apply a little bit around the eye area as well. Oh yeah, with the finger. Okay, she's cute, she's icy, she gives me less rosé and more strawberry Nesquik, not gonna lie. But if you want a little bit more of a bold punch, go in with your finger or with a more dense foundation brush. Here you can see with the finger, here you can see with a brush, here you can see with a dense brush. You have a lot of control over how pink the payoff is, but it's cute. Not gonna lie. There hasn't been a diamond bomb that's come out that I don't love. So she's cute. She'll be in regular rotation, that's for sure. Finish my face, put on brows, and then we'll play around with the new gloss. So we went in brows, bronzer, highlight. Now we're gonna go in, and last thing we're gonna do is use the new Fenty cream gloss in the shade Fenty Glow. I love the original gloss bomb in the shade Fenty Glow. This apparently just has a little bit more opacity to it. Let's see. It's not as opaque as I thought it was going to be. The scent of this is a little bit more like cream cheese frosting, which I am very familiar with because I am known to eat it by the spoonful. The texture of it, it feels like there's a little bit more grit to it. I'm not going to lie to you. Like, it's a little bit more something to it that it's like, is it a pigment? I don't know what that is. Undertone of it, again, while it's not so opaque, the color of it's a little bit more coral than I thought it was gonna be. Don't know how I feel about this yet. We're gonna let it sink in, let it wear down, and see what it looks like, but should have gone with the chocolate brown. So here's the tea. Right now it's currently 1:30 almost. I'm gonna let this sit for the next 6 to 8 hours, see what it really looks like. I did not set my face further than what you've seen on camera, just because powder foundation, what's great about it is that it's a powder formula as it is. It's going to ideally help to absorb any excess oil throughout the day, give you the pigment payoff that you want, and I just want to test what that looks like throughout the day, how it's going to wear. Again, this side primed, this side not primed. No setting spray or anything yet, even though I love the way setting spray looks on a powder foundation. But I'll check in the next 6 to 8 hours to let you know what my first impressions and wear test review is of the new Fenty Pro Filt'r powder foundation. So here we are, roughly 6 hours after initial application and whatnot, and you can see now how I'm looking. And real talk, being very objective looking at myself in the mirror, what I will say is, number one, I'm kind of shiny on both sides, primed and unprimed. But number two, I look really smooth. I'm not even gonna front. My under eyes, smooth. Forehead, smooth. And I get really bad creasing here because I have really pronounced expression lines. That could potentially be due to a result of not having to put a lot of the foundation there, so it's a sheer layer, but also it does claim to be crease resistant. But even my under eyes, they look amazing. My eyelids, I didn't do anything on them besides just do a layer of the powder foundation to cancel out any pigmentation. Minimally creasy, and I got matte oily eyelids. Overall, I really like this, I'm not gonna lie. I need to get used to how to most appropriately apply it, how to most appropriately play with it, because what I will say is that I do prefer using these to apply the foundation to get the most coverage out of it. Using a brush, using the blending sponge. Not used to that, need to figure it out. I especially could not get really full coverage out of the brush, but I'll get to that in a second. My main thing is with these, you don't have a lot of leeway in how you blend the product. So when I was going in with the 240 in the center and the 290 in the perimeter, there's like weird splotchy areas I had to like blend in afterwards with a brush. And again, also what I mentioned about cleaning these and how well these are gonna like stand up to multiple cleaning and whatnot. I don't know, but really enjoy these. Just love this concept altogether. First and foremost, I love a powder foundation for the flexibility it gives. If you need to run out the door in a few minutes and you have bare minimum time to do makeup, this allows you to do a lot in terms of evening up pigmentation, giving you a nice sheer wash of color, but if you need to, really building it up. This allows you a lot of flexibility with convenience in travel. Maybe a touch up on the go, your makeup's starting to get a little bit shiny and you just want to touch up a little bit, great option. If your makeup's deteriorating throughout the day, which for me happens a lot right here, blot a little bit, going with this to touch up is going to give you a coverage, but also some mattness as a result of that. It's compact. I love the concept of this overall. This is a home run. Could not be happier with this. I wanted to touch on a couple things. First and foremost, I mentioned the fact that the color of this seems a little bit lighter than the 290 foundation I used for my face, and I actually have swatches on the back of my hand to show. Going from left to right, starting right here, this is the 290 Pro Filt'r Soft Matte Foundation, the liquid version. This is what I like because the undertone is very, very good, but sometimes it's a little bit too dark for me. So I have to go in and lighten it up if I have to. This right here is a Pro Filt'r concealer in 290. You can see undertone and shade are a little bit different. This matches me pretty well. I usually buff it out in a sheer layer. I generally really like this for my winter time when my skin's a little bit fairer. This right here is the powder foundation in 290. And so comparing these two to each other, they live within the same realm. But for me, this has been on my hand now for 5 minutes, so it's fully set and darkened to its actual shade. This is substantially lighter than this one, in my opinion. But honestly, as I mentioned, I get fair in the winter, and for me, undertone's a big thing. I love the way this undertone looks. This last one right here is the Maple Matchstick from Fenty. I find that it matches me pretty well. Overall, you can see these are all generally in the same realm, 290 and adjacent, and it all looks very different. Do with that what you will. And then just to reference, to show you, I'm gonna touch up a little bit. I'm taking a clean little powder puff right here and just blotting some excess shine. You see that looks amazing already. And we're just gonna take a little bit of the 290 powder foundation with the little powder puff applicator that comes with it. You can see, oh my God, it looks amazing. Voila. I got a little bit worried applying the product at first because I did that thing where it touched something that was a little bit moist, so it oxidized a little bit, but just a gentle swipe didn't move the product. It just kind of blended that out a little bit. I don't look too cakey, but what I will say is I can already tell it. If I were to do this 4 or 5 times throughout the day, layer upon layer upon layer, cumulatively would look a little sus, so be careful with that. I generally prefer the Invisimatte blotting powder for through the day touch-ups, but you do you. So overall, I genuinely love this. I'm very, very happy, very excited that this was launched. I can't wait to see how it plays with my other Fenty Beauty products and how it fits into my daily routine. And I'm really excited for this, especially for travel purposes. Touching on everything else that I tried today for the first time, first and foremost, that highlighter. Love. I have not met a diamond bomb that has failed me, and this stands up to the rest of them, honestly. It just gives me a nice, icy, but wet, like shimmery pink finish. And then the gloss, I just reapplied this before we started filming. I don't hate this. Again, the Gloss Bomb formula for me, what it really does fundamentally is just really moisturize and nourish my lips. The undertone of this is different than standard Gloss Bomb Fenty Glow. For me, that one's more of a dusty rose nude. This to me gets a little bit more corally nude. I don't like that on my lips, but it doesn't look bad necessarily. I need to play around with this and see what I feel about it. Don't love it yet like I do the foundation and the highlighter, so And with that, that is my first impression, application, and full day wear test of the Fenty Pro Filt'r Soft Matte Powder Foundation. Home run, hands down. Fenty hit it out of the ballpark. Make sure you give this video a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, notification bell so that you know when I post more skincare, sunscreen, Fenty related content on my channel. And then down below in the comments, are you gonna get this? Were you as excited for it as I was? Just because for me, Fenty makeup, especially complexion, is always innovation after innovation. Are you gonna get your hands on it? Let me know. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.